We are the board. Prepare to be. Wait, you're watching your father's sci-fi show? Never mind. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes, well, I was saying Putin and Zelensky, they're like mobsters. This is the whole thing's like a mob war. But
Yeah.
welcome to your father's sci-fi show. We're going to talk some more about Andor, and our sponsor today is Aluminium, the alloy with aluminum and aluminium. It's twice as good as aluminum and twice as good as aluminium. There, you'll figure it out.
Aluminium.
You'll figure it out. Aluminum, aluminium.
All right. Lu. Yeah, no wonder it's so long. It's 15
Isn't one
minutes on
the
the internet.
American pronunciation, the other the British pronunciation?
Bingo.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
it's
All right, so we
pure BS. But anyway, okay. Onward and upward.
It is what it is, man. They got different words for everything.
well, let's talk about Andor. We'll continuing the discussion on Andor. I think we've seen 4 and 5.
Mhm.
Me and Scott have. Frank has seen all the commentary on 4 and 5.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's getting there. In
Well,
fact,
I have to say that
go ahead. I
I,
don't have anything to say.
I like the way they're doing it. I like the I think the character development that they're doing on it. I think that the whole thing is they're I don't think it's paced too slow. I think it's paced about right for
Yeah.
what they're doing, because they're getting a whole bunch of people that don't know each other together to do something, and there's just
Yeah.
the trust issue and all of that. But yeah, I think it's, I don't know, it's just kind of it's scary because I'm expecting it to go south at any minute, because of like,
right. It's a 3 episode 3 arc type of show.
mhm. Yeah.
We just saw the middle, the Act 1 and Act 2, and now Act 3 is coming up in episode 6. And then I'm sure there'll be another 3
And
acts.
Frank is contemplating something.
I'm just trying to find my notes. That's all. Okay, I found them.
Notes. I don't know. I just got this blind off the cuff.
For some reason, notes like to disappear. I don't understand why. I like to disappear.
I do like
Okay.
how they're portraying our antagonist is not completely evil people. They're just doing their job, and they're right.
Yeah, but
So,
I think history is fraught with people doing horrific things because they're just doing their job.
Yes.
you
well,
know?
right now they're not doing horrific things. I mean,
Well, no,
and actually murdered 2 people, and it's legitimate that you would have a security force try to find the murderer and take care of justice. And
no, I'm more inclined to do
looking for,
what the guy in charge said to do, was come up with an excuse, come up with a good
But-
story,
then
and bury it.
they're being very good about showing that kind of ineptitude and complacency that the big empire has gotten to. Even they did that with the scene where
It's like I said the other day, that it's interesting now that you're looking at a lot of stuff before, and you're looking at how Palpatine is maneuvering the bureaucracy of things to accomplish goals.
Mhm.
You have a murder in, basically you have a murder in small town, and they try to investigate it instead of cover it up, which they should have done actually to begin with. And the investigation winds up getting you guys in trouble, and now, well, somebody else from the Federation is going to come down and they're going to take over what's going on here, because so it's kind of, I don't know, it's scary, interesting to see it and to watch it as it develops.
I think was telling when the episode 5 they showed was it Blevin, and was giving this other guy, this other captain, to be in charge over Ferrex,
Mhm.
It's like, can I be called a prefix? A prefect? A prefector? A prefect?
Prefect.
I want to be called a
Ye-
prefect, like
Yeah,
I
you call yourself what you want,
yeah,
man.
you can wear a ball gown if you want. I don't give a fuck. And it's just showing
It's like, yeah, really, I don't care.
how
Just
the
get this
empire
crap
is getting
done.
so complacent, and you got guys in there that aren't really there to do a job, but to have a title for themselves. I want to be called
Right.
the prefect. He's like, I don't care.
Well, I mean, it would look good on a resume, I guess.
So they're showing us instead of telling us things. That's not
The
nice.
complacency tends to lend to an older empire instead of an empire that started
Well, it is.
14 years prior, if I got my right. This is 5 years before Yavin. So the empire started, according to the prequels, at 19 BBY. So 15 years, you think complacency could roll in that early? Or
Yeah.
are we dealing with an older
Yeah.
empire?
Oh, no. Well, I don't think it's. I think the complacency might
Because they
be.
have. Well, go ahead.
I don't know. I think the complacency might be a holdover from the Republic.
They don't. Yeah,
You
they
know,
don't have an enemy.
yeah. There's no. I didn't.
They
I wasn't
won.
aware of the
They
time
won.
frame on
Yeah, they
this,
won
but
the fight. They became the empire. They don't really have an enemy to fight, so they're getting fat and lazy.
right.
In 15 years, yeah, that's possible.
Oh, 15 years is plenty of time. Good Lord.
Yeah.
You look at human history, and if there's somebody that's if there's a tyrannical regime in office, they're not in office for 15 years before people have had enough.
Right.
But you're talking on a galactic scale. So it
Yeah.
just takes time for people to filter out and filter down and go, you know what, I really don't like this shit. You look at what the one guy told Clem. It's like that. I didn't like them before they killed, and they killed my brother.
Right.
And it's like they took his farm, and he took a boat out in the middle of the water, loaded his pockets with rocks, and dropped in. But it's there's not a whole hard lot to sort I'm looking for. Sympathy, empathy, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
you can
Right.
see parallels where governments have gone in and done things, and they're doing it for the benevolence of the people, and ultimately it hurts more people than it does,
Right.
than it helps.
The road paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
Or the road.
Sounds like the Galactic Empire.
I can't remember the
What?
phrase.
Well, I
The
think
road to
the
hell is
interesting part
paved
for
with
me
good
is
intentions.
very difficult to talk about this show and not discuss politics, because this show is politics.
Right. Very much so.
So it's a very, I don't know, man. It's a really,
Well, Nemec certainly talks a lot about politics in this show. You know, the balance of the navigation device with his
Right.
manifesto of liberty and interesting stuff.
Yeah. I kind of want to
Well,
hear
the
more
reason-
of what he was
reason-
talking about, but then you got cut short.
Right. The reason why I ask about complacency is because there had to come a point where the Galactic Empire realized it could no longer control the territory that it had tried to dominate, and there was a need for a doctrine of fear, which was proposed by Grand Moff Tarkin, that they needed a planet-killing super weapon, a weapon that would keep the galaxy under control through the sheer terror of the ground beneath them being blown away. Now, the age of the Death Star, how long the Death Star was fabricated, needs to be an integral part of this timeline. But it has to start with the fact that the Emperor is the rose-colored glasses have come off from the galactic citizenry. And now Palpatine is no longer looked upon as a deity, as this great man who got the government started again and got rid of all these corrupt individuals. There has to come a point when the galactic citizens realize it's all a lie. And Palpatine is just an authoritarian iron fist come to crush them all. See, there has to be a timeline here, and that means you need more time for an older empire. But well, that's it for that idea. Anybody want to talk about Easter eggs?
Well, they're not Easter eggs because Easter eggs are hidden. I mean, these are just out in plain view.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
I mean, you're looking at a screenshot of his shop, and you're like, yeah, I see that, I see that, I see that,
Yep.
I see that.
Yeah.
They're not.
Shankara stones from Temple of Doom.
Just pull them off a shelf and show people. Look, see, I got this.
Yeah.
Supersized holocrons
Oh,
and even an impact gun.
Yeah.
Probably
Well,
a laser, you know.
set decoration
Be a
is
drill
always
frame.
interesting.
It looks like a workshop bench.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, I go back to the whole Easter egg fan service thing of not comprehending why people want to watch a movie 15 times just so they can look at every single thing in the background.
There are, believe it or not, in this series, some of them are Easter eggs and some of them are actually, I think, messages. I'll use a perfect example. When Cassian had all his equipment taken away and they're going through his stuff, if you look at the stuff on the table, there is a Briar pistol, which of course no one here knows what a Briar pistol is.
Nope,
because
no
they
idea.
haven't played. Huh?
No idea.
If you play
whatsoever.
The Dark Forces video games, or you read the Dark Forces trilogy, Kyle Katarn, a guy who started out as a stormtrooper and became a Jedi Knight, had a Briar pistol. That was his go-to weapon. That's the starting pistol in the video game, and it's also described in the trilogy. So what they're basically saying is Cassian Andor is Kyle Katarn with the serial numbers ground off, just like the Mandalorian was Boba Fett with the serial numbers ground off. I see a pattern.
As Frank approaches the dead horse with his blunt object, it takes several long swings.
Blunt object. I
think it was also interesting. The guy outed him on the other weapon he had. And he's like, yeah, where'd you get this? Because it's not yours. It's like, well.
I don't remember the guy's name. I ask.
Yeah, well, see, that's my problem is that I watch these shows. I just kind of watch them, and I get to throw back to the original where you see Boba Fett in the background, and they never call him by name, but everybody knows what his name is, and I'm like,
well, he's on the toy. That's his name on the toy.
Right. Well,
and in the storybook, and in the novelization,
and all
the other stuff I didn't look at.
I know.
All the magazines and pamphlets and posters and bubblegum cards and yeah.
Can I be pretentious? Those of us who actually read books are now being punished. And the normies are being rewarded. And I think that's pretty bad.
Well, I think that goes back to
Empire of Shadows, and Shadow of the Empire really punished me. So,
well, I think it goes back to what I've said before: is that they're making these movies for the 98% of people that did not go and read these books and
you are correct.
Do this stuff, and that's who it's made for. And so,
piss off the people who have read the books. You don't have. You don't have to take Kyle Katarn, throw him out because they don't want to pay Mr. Dietz royalties for his creation, or they take out the ISB, what's her name? Is that Dedra? Dedra should be Zane Izar, and her father should be the head of the ISB like it was in the X-Wing novels, but they don't want to pay Michael Stackpole royalties, so they created new characters. So it's like a weird skeleton where all the names were changed to protect the innocent or the guilty.
Do you want your subscription to be $20 to pay Stackpole his cut? I don't.
Is that a lot of money? And Alan Dean Foster is still wanting his money because they use the words like Kyber Crystal and Mimban, which were words he created, planets and places he created.
Well, the copyright laws are kind of weird. Like if you're going to write for Lucasfilm or for Disney, then they own the copyright. You don't, as an author. You don't own it.
Right, but they don't want to pay the royalties. They just don't want it. And Alan Dean Foster seems to be the only author who's really gotten in Disney's face and said, "Hey, you guys are screwing us over."
I guess so.
And I'm going to point that out every time. And
But I think it's a big copyright issue with why they're not using some of this material and using
if it appeared in any of the movies, it's fine. You notice that Greedo's blaster was sitting amongst the artifacts as well. The actual blaster that Greedo held in A New Hope. So it's like they're trying to pander to the fans, but they just don't know how to do it. There are some fans that eat all this stuff up and are excited and are creating theories about what the future.
I don't watch none of those.
I think it goes back though that I think that the vast majority of, and I don't want to, I don't want to pretend that I speak for the majority of people on anything, but I think it goes back to the fact there's a lot of people like me that really don't care.
Okay,
Greedo's, you know, they're looking at a table load of weapons, and Greedo's gun happens to be in one of them.
I wouldn't even know what it would. I wouldn't know it.
I know. I mean,
pop department. Oh yeah, we have this over.
Yeah, and that's something. There are people in this country who like to listen to experts, and they'll social distance and they'll put masks on because experts told them. I think that works in the Star Wars world as well to some degree.
Well,
just don't call me Fauci.
But when circling back though, you guys were talking about royalties and stuff like that. You'll remember, and I'll touch on this as I often do, too many times, I guess. But Star Trek, when they were doing Deep Space Nine, they were actually going to the character that was supposed to be the pilot for the Discovery was supposed to be Locarno from Alpha Squadron.
Yes.
And they were like, well, if we do that, we're going to have to pay the guy royalty for this. So they used the exact same actor, gave him a completely different name, different backstory. And the same thing happened to some extent. The actress that played Rolaren didn't want to get tied down to a big series.
So they brought in Nana Visitor, yes.
So yeah, they brought in Nana Visitor and rewrote that character. But and the difference, the thing is, and there's a huge difference, and I'm going to almost agree with Frank here, because Star Wars should be getting it more right. Because when you go back to Trials and Tribulations, the Deep Space Nine crossover that they did with the original series, that show would not be possible today because all of it's separated. But Star Wars, the Star Wars folks have everything all in one basket. They own it all. So there's in a way, it really doesn't make sense to go, let's, and I'll be honest with you, if they called a character in a book Daz McCarty, and in the television show or in a movie or whatever, he winds up being called something different, I really wouldn't know it. And I really wouldn't care, but then you have, guys like Frank, they want that.
Yes.
And again,
otherwise,
I go back.
Don't call it Star Wars. Call it something else. Create another series. If you've got an agenda, if you've got a storytelling agenda, if you have a specific story to tell, whether it's good or bad, and you have to hijack another franchise to tell that story, maybe that story's not that good.
Well, but that's my perpetual argument too. If your budget for a movie is $38 million and $37,899,412 of that is CGI, then your story's crap to begin with. Yes. I don't think there are the 1, 2, and 3 aside. I don't think there are any bad stories in the Star Wars universe. But the problem is they're not wanting to present the Star Wars universe. They're wanting to present their version of the Star Wars universe. And that's going to be a perpetual problem. I hear people talk about, Kathleen Kennedy and how she's destroying it, and people aren't happy, and there may or may not be infighting. I don't know.
Yeah,
at some point,
we don't know what's going on, but something in the leadership department is lacking. Very much so. And by contrast, you notice that they're starting to talk about the planet Gorman in these two episodes. And there's a Gorman incident where Tarkin basically flattens a bunch of protesters on the tarmac with his ship.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the linchpin that really starts. Those are the first martyrs of the rebellion. And of course, then there's Alderaan, which really sets the galaxy on fire. But they'll use Gorman. Gorman came from the role-playing game. And also from the X-Wing, the Farlander papers, from the X-Wing video game. Now, the video game company has been liquefied, and the role-playing game is no longer owned by West End Games. So they are using those because they don't have to pay royalties on them. I mean, you can literally predicate what will be in the story based on whether or not they have to pay royalties. You can predict it. And you can see both sides. They'll use Fig and Dan and the modal nodes because that comes from the role-playing game in the comics, but they won't use characters that they have that have authors that have some sort of royalties that are owed them. It's just being cheap. And people like me see it as being cheap, and I'm going to call them on every act of cheapness.
I don't have a problem with it being cheap because that's just the business model.
Right. But my question is honestly this. Honestly, my question is this. How much is it going to cost them? I mean, if I want to use, if I'm writing a Star Wars story and I want to use this person's name, how much is that actually going to cost them in the bigger picture? Oh,
that's a good question. It's a good question. And I don't know, but
it would depend on the contracts that they make. It could be like every time this is broadcast, or somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I would get 11 cents.
An interview with Ann Carroll Crispin. She got something for like $20,000 for a novel, writing a novel. Mm-hmm. If I recall, I remember an interview with her. So it's money, but I don't see it being millions. And they're being penny wise and pound foolish.
Look at
people like me and people like Michael Stackpole, who wrote the X-Wing novels, could be out there endorsing Disney products of their own free will or otherwise. But if you're going to rob people, you're going to have people like Alan Dean Foster doing interviews saying that Disney sucks. They owe me money. My wife's dying from cancer, and they couldn't care less about me, and they owe me money.
Okay, but what about this? And you can try to figure, and this is the part that I've been trying to figure out ever since I saw it. Okay. Episode 4. James Earl Jones voices Darth Vader uncredited because he doesn't believe it's going to be like the people that made it. He thinks it's going to be a flop. No problem.
Yes.
So he's paid an unprecedented amount of money to become the voice of Darth Vader. Awesome. I'm happy for him. Truly, I am happy for him. And then I read something yesterday, or was it earlier today? I don't know. It's all blurred in one big beating. But apparently now he has actually signed away the rights to his own voice. And in the future, Darth Vader's voice will sound like James Earl Jones, but it will be a computer doing it.
Yeah. Because you realize his vocal cords are not going to be there forever.
Right. And
he can sell the rendering. Yeah.
Well, no, I understand that, but it's just kind of an odd, it's sort of an odd thing when you.
I'm going to say something silly. It would really be nice if the lawyers were not telling the stories and the storytellers were telling the stories unfettered.
But the problem with that is,
Buck said this Kyle Katarn guy, he sucks ass. I don't like him. I don't want him in my story. So then, what do you do? I don't know. I mean,
right, but there are so many movies and there are so many shows that are being written.
They went down and created a bunch of collateral damage, and a lot of innocent civilian people got killed, and he's like, oh well, fuck that guy.
I don't know. I think at some point anything like whether it's the Star Wars universe empire or it's the Earth equivalent of the Roman Empire, at some point it doesn't matter how.
Yeah.
It just doesn't trickle down. because there is, you know, and you, especially if you look at like European history, where, you know, there was actually a point where it's like, well, you know, you killed a deer on the king's property, so you killed something that belonged to the king, you might as well kill the king, and therefore it's like, wait, what? Like, I'm trying to feed my family. And I think that's the issue, that far too many.
Well, wait till the deer gets out of his land.
Well, you know, but
You know what
it goes back to
are?
the weird thing that, and it's always been something that I've never really understood. And when you're and I guess people that are raised that way, they probably don't think of it that way. But it's very odd to me that here this person is that I've never, I've never, you know, said, okay, they can be in charge of me, is now making all these rules, going, well, this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this.
Well, all of you.
So Palpatine, and it really, yeah, I really have to go back to when Palpatine said they were organizing to the First Galactic Empire. At that point, he really did. I guess he really didn't need their permission, because he had amassed so much power and through corruption and everything else. But if we're 15 years into the empire, then people are most definitely going to be unhappy, because they look at life before and they look at life now, and they're not thrilled.
Like under the current administration.
Again, it's very difficult to talk about this, to talk about Andor and not get involved in the politics of what's going on, because the whole thing is political. You've got a group of people that don't like the people in charge because the people in charge are assholes.
There is
the irony being, when they get in charge, they become the assholes.
Yes,
they never realize
that. It's I think it goes back to the old maxim that, you know, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah. But you can't help watch Andor and see the parallels in their history, and look at our planet and look at some of the parallels in the history there.
I think I've read somewhere or heard something where they're purposely making Coruscant almost like the Weimar Republic when Hitler came into power. They want to have that German look or look to things.
Well, I mean, it's
with the nice shiny speeder and
everything's clean and bright, and pretty, and only it's not.
Yeah, they just pull from a lot of different things. So
yeah,
it's those subliminal hints.
All right. The shipyards on Fondor. Brian Daly's waving. Also Mimban and Kyber crystals. Alan Dean Foster's waving. What else?
I don't know.
Now, it just I think for the little bit of extra money, they could have just done Dark Forces, Soldier of the Empire, and then developed the second and the third books, and they could have had us on board. I just can't see the difference in money, leaving so many fans behind who know better and who would have seen those details and could have explained those details to normies and say, this is really good because they're including all the stuff in from the books. But they're not.
Again,
they're making it of people who could be their friends and could be their influencers and could be free advertising that could have easily offset the price of giving some authors a little street cred for what they wrote. It doesn't make sense to me as a business model.
It's theirs, Frank. They don't have to do that.
It's theirs.
And if
you
really
own a Rolls Royce and drive it off a cliff, it's still yours. You're still an idiot.
Right.
It doesn't change the fact you're an idiot.
Right.
That's my point.
But you go back to any franchise. You go back to any one of them, and I dare you to come up with any franchise that as it progresses long enough, that as other people come in and other people cycle out, that the new people don't put their brand on it somehow, some way, whether it's nipples on the back costume, whether it's, a John Holmes cop piece for Robin, regardless of what the hell it is, they're going to put their mark on it. And that you saw it with the Star Trek franchises. You see it with the Star Wars franchises. You see it in everything.
Yes.
Picard, they took a kick-ass, no playing around, solid statesman of a captain and turned him into
a robot,
a touchy,
a touchy-feely, go with my emotions thing, and then they turned him into a robot. You're going, okay, whatever. But it you'll see these things. You'll see where people will put their marks on these things, and that's what they're doing. And I would, in a way, I would almost say, you know what? If I had the ability to run a show, it would definitely be run the way I want it. And the people that are coming in are either going to run it the way I want it, or they're not going to be there.
Well, yeah.
Now, is that what's going on with Star Wars right now?
Undoubtedly.
Could be. I don't know. I don't know.
I think Favreau kicked ass with The Mandalorian. Frank didn't like it because he's like, it's Boba
I don't know. I just like my
Trandoshans
to have missile weapons when they're going against the Mandalorian and not throwing spears at him. But I digress.
It had
within the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know. Mandalorian was I don't know. It was enjoyable, but they could it was just about the Baby Yoda thing, and it
wasn't about the Baby Yoda thing. The Baby Yoda thing became a thing, and then they made the same mistake with Darth Vader.
Well, I think they made all the episodes first, and then they doled them out.
Oh yeah, they
made one episode and say, "Oh, everybody likes Baby Yoda. Now we're going to make episode 2 next week." And
yeah, well, I mean, you look at.
I want
to see Star Wars the A-Team. I want the Mandalorian. I want the bounty hunter to have every episode. The bounty hunter goes after a bounty, gets it, and takes care of that business. And then next week it's a different bounty, and where none of it has anything to do with anything else in the damn Star Wars universe. It's just this one guy getting his money, having some adventures.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we have all these things that are tied into something else that's happening down the line.
Right, but then the downside to it is that his bounty happened to be somebody that he was not going to just hand over because whatever.
It had googly eyes. It had big
and ate frogs.
Oh, look at me! I'm so nice.
I mean, who doesn't like that? Hey Kermit, come here. Got somebody I want you to meet. But it's like, I don't know. It's again, and that was Favreau putting his mark on the Star Wars franchise.
And then, Mandalorian season 2 was nothing but we're going to present these new characters for our spin-off stories later on down the line. So I was like,
sure.
Okay, well,
no, that wouldn't be the first time.
That's all it was that whole season.
Well,
spin-offs. Well, let's get back to Andor. Let's talk about Mon Mothma. She's a character who has been explored many times in the expanded universe, but no one has thought prior to the Andor to give her a husband and a daughter.
Right.
Now, I myself have always seen Mon Mothma as a Queen Elizabeth, a woman who was married to the Republic. And then when her husband died, she married again to the New Republic. So I kind of find that irksome. It's really not even, I won't even call that a credible continuity issue. But it seems like previous authors treated her with a more Elizabethan elegance as compared to now she has a domestic experience, and I know it's going to tie.
But it's a dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that.
Disney's her daughter,
family. I'm going to faint.
It has to be a dysfunctional family because they couldn't show somebody happy.
The thing was that her daughter says that's all you think about is yourself, and we, the audience, know that's completely bullshit. She's thinking about everybody else, not her. She's not even thinking about herself to a certain extent.
Well, it's
except that she'd be the first one to fall, which would be the domino effect, and it would take out the entire effort of the rebellion to begin with, as nascent as it is. So those are nice little beats. and
I think that
played
I
well.
think that as we watch Andor, we're going to see the Empire begin to make the same mistakes that very many fascist governments on this planet have done.
All right, that's
And
what else can we
and
use as an example?
whether it's the way that the English treated the Scots, whether it's the way that the English treated the colonists, in the Americas,
The Indians.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it and you go, they're creating their own problem. They're creating
Yes.
their own enemies.
Well, they like
And
to,
again,
governments like to create their own problems so that they can be the savior and
Well,
resolve those
yeah,
problems.
no
Right.
doubt, government is always coming up with solutions that don't work to problems that they created to begin with. But at some point, yeah, honestly, God, at some point, if you're in charge, if you're in power, and you're looking at stuff, and you're going, you know what, this is really nothing but a giant shit sandwich, and all we're doing is it just, I completely don't understand it.
And at the top of the pyramid is this Sith Lord who's
Yeah.
running things. But
Mhm.
what's in it for him? Does he get more force points for being the for running the
It
galaxy?
all depends on which continuity we're
I'm
entertaining.
looking. That's the
Because Palpatine, to
weird
some degree,
thing.
is a vampire. He
Right.
is drawing off his subjects, but Disney hasn't expounded on that yet.
Right.
Well, right, but again, you have to go. Okay, he seeks power, and I think he
But he
spoke to
has
that
it.
actually in one of the movies. And right, but see,
How much more-
he
yeah.
has power. Okay, well, okay,
He had power in episode one.
you're the leader of the known universe. What or of the galaxy, whatever.
Right.
What else? What are you going to do?
The galaxy's not enough.
We need all the galaxies.
Apparently,
We need
but
But once again, which continuity are we talking about?
plenty of them.
well, I'm just
What's he
speaking
doing
the
what is he doing
generalities
in the books?
of
Or in the old
of
books.
emperors and dictators and people who have been given or have taken power, and what their ultimate end game is. Okay, Palpatine did, as we're seeing in Andor, he took a lot of the bureaucracy and used it to work against itself, so that it would put it into a position where it's gonna have to be an empire. There's gonna have to be one person to make these decisions. And again, you can't help but see the parallels in this country, where the government is creating problems so that they can ultimately step in and go, we're here to save you. And I'm just too much. I'm too much.
Palpatine did that in the beginning as well.
I'm too much of a person that goes, you know what? The most scariest phrase in the English language is, I'm with the government. I'm here to help, because they're not.
Paul, what was your question again? You asked me something.
Who? Me?
Did you ask me a question?
Yeah. I said, well, what was he doing? What was his as far as the story
Motivation.
goes, what was his motivation as a character?
What was his end game?
I mean, like the Roman Empire, they had more land they could expand into and take and conquer.
He had come to restore the Sith Empire, and so he decided to use the Old Republic and the Jedi Knights to implode. He basically realized he could never defeat the Jedi Knights or the Old Republic in a direct frontal assault, so he slowly eroded them and caused them to collapse upon themselves until they were to the point where even the public didn't like the Jedi anymore, and the purge was viewed as a good thing by the average citizen.
Imagine that.
Get all that,
the government making a group of people look like the bad guys. Where have I heard that before? Where have I heard that before? Right. But I'm again,
it's
I
the
understand
story of tyranny. It is. And that's why the Americans loved it so much, because we resisted tyranny. We needed some classic storytelling again, where good and evil was clearly delineated, and that's why we gravitated to.
But see, Americans don't want, and I don't know much about other countries how they view it, but Americans don't want good guys and bad guys.
Apparently, we did in '77.
They want Oh, in 77, yeah, absolutely. But somewhere
Today,
along the
no.
lines, it's like it goes back to some of the conversations we had before. The first, 4, 5, and 6, awesome, terrific. Okay, now they're going to do 1, 2, and 3. Okay, great. But what are they going to do? They're going to give us the story of how Vader became Vader, and everybody knows that story. Why tell it?
Yeah.
Because the only thing it does, honest to God, the only thing it does is it makes the most horrible, vicious villain in the world seem like a victim.
We knew that Han Solo was a
Yeah.
pirate.
Yep.
Yet, if you read in Carol Crispin's Han Solo trilogy, we go from Han at 4 years old until we're at the Mos Eisley Cantina. It is a rock solid story. It's entertaining. We know how it's going to end, and it's a roller coaster ride the whole way through. We knew Bria Theron was going to die because her last name wasn't Leia. Wasn't Organa.
Yeah.
But the story was still amazing. So
well,
I refuse to use George Lucas as the absolute example that prequels are inherently bad, because they are not. Read The Hobbit.
Well,
Wasn't The Hobbit written first?
Yes. No, well, it wasn't
the problem,
given to the public in that order, but anyway.
I don't know.
The problem
Hobbit came first?
Yes.
Well,
the problem is that even Lucas messed with his own story.
Never mind.
Well,
Scott,
Han Solo shot first. I don't give a
Han Solo shot.
What
there
version?
Was only one round discharge.
Yeah, I don't care what version they show in the theater. I don't care what Han Solo shot first. Why? Because he's a scoundrel. He's a rogue.
Yeah.
He's a freaking pirate. Period. And I don't need the justification of that, of going, oh, well, Greedo shot first. And no, fuck that. Greedo's a greasy spot on the floor. All right.
Dead horses are getting beaten and beaten.
Right. And yeah, and we do that a lot on this show.
In the 16 years between Return of the Jedi and The Phantom Menace, our culture, George Lucas included, had changed. And you can visibly see it has changed. It was a shift, a political and philosophical shift to the left. And as I've said before, the left doesn't care about continuity, and it shows.
Well, and that's very true. But the thing is that not you, but what they've done is they've taken the core value of what the original 3 movies were, and as you said, we don't care about this. Here's our version of it. And that's why you
defect put into it. So the miracle of Luke Skywalker destroying it has been discredited. Yes, they are trying to dismantle Star Wars because the original trilogy is good, and because the powers that be are evil, they must dismantle that which is.
But they're not really evil. They're doing this for the benefit of everyone. Everyone will ultimately benefit from the fascism and the steel boot on their throat.
Sarcasm.
Give me a fucking break.
And I think this too with this movie, with this show.
And it's all
realized that Star Wars fans have grown up, so Andor is more of a grown-up show.
Timothy Zahn knew that.
Well,
but and again, that's the perpetual circle. This, Frank is wanting Disney to write movies and shows for the adults that loved 3, 4, and 5, and that's not what they do. They're doing it with the entertainment for kids.
And I will call them out for their creative bankruptcy at every credible opportunity.
And we like how you lean into the camera to talk.
That's how you know he's serious. He leans into the, but I think it
smash zoom. I'm serious.
But getting back to Andor, and they're talking to the team, and you get they're extremely dedicated people, and they're doing what they're doing because they believe it's something that's going to hurt the Empire. And
they're taking the money
and I think that's it puts them in it puts them in again, it goes back to that moral gray area that everybody seems to love. You got good guys that do bad things, you got bad guys that do good things, and when you bounce it up against Andor, you've got a group of people that just they don't like the Empire. The Empire has just proven itself in the 15 years that it's been running that it's not good for people. And I mean, where do you go with that? Where do you start? How do you go?
There comes a point when the sufferings of a government get to the point where they have to throw off that government. I mean, it is the direct Declaration of Independence, and that's
yeah, absolutely. And that's,
I mean, who's to say the actual old republic was any different?
It wasn't.
There are all these transitions.
Take over.
Yeah,
because
I think that
corrupt. The old republic had become like a rotted tree, and there was so much corruption going on,
right?
That nothing was getting done, and Palpatine came in and got things working. Of course, everything he was doing was
right. But see,
nefarious.
if you look at the situation, he manipulated people and he manipulated things.
Yes.
To make them that way so that he can then step again. It's a solution to a problem that the same person that has the solution
he
created the problem. And it's like, you go back and you look at what they did with the Trade Federation, or you look what they did with, even for that matter, ordering the clones. It's almost like it in an odd way, it's sort of fascinating to watch it and to see this complex plan come together for it to become an empire, and then to see it where people are like, okay, we really don't like this, we're going to do something about it. And that's it's on the one hand, that's why I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this series pans out. And and unfortunately, I'm a little bit aligned with Frank on this one, man. I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop. I really am. I'm
the woke shoe to drop. The woke.
Yeah, I'm waiting for I'm waiting for it to just go high. I'm like the target's over here and they're aiming over here. So.
Well, I don't know.
But
or it might be decent. As I've said before, if you take continuity off the table, Rogue One was probably my second favorite of the Disney Star Wars movies. It was a good enclosed story. It was clear. It was to the point. It was interesting. Yeah. And it brings us to Episode 4. But the problem is there's a huge speed bump of continuity there.
Right.
But like I said, you take people who don't care about the little details and don't care about each chapter lining up.
Yeah,
I don't like fit and finish. The car drives.
I didn't expect Rogue One to bump up against A New Hope. I didn't expect. I thought there'd be some kind of ending, and then there'll be some time between those two.
Yeah, but there's not. I mean, you would think that's what would happen.
About the movie, it's like, all of a sudden this ends, and then the next one begins.
Yeah.
You don't even have to take a break between the movies. It's like it'd be a 4-hour movie if you put them together.
The Clone Wars cartoon that was done by Genndy Tartakovsky basically linked Episode 4 and 5 together seamlessly, and it was well done. So that in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
You go from Darth Vader throwing rebels around and cutting them in half and crushing them, and then you get to a more simmering evil of Darth Vader coming through the door after the stormtroopers blow open the Canton 4. And it doesn't look good. If you watch the two of them in chronological order, it doesn't work. I mean, I often joke, Darth Vader said several transmissions have been beamed to this ship.
Right.
Darth Vader, are you looking for this disc?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It doesn't line up. They were beamed to her ship, not the Mon Calamari ship.
And that's what I was kind of expecting for the end of Rogue One to be. Something like they would get the plans, and then they would be out in deep space somewhere and transmitting these plans. And it didn't work that way. It worked like the way it worked.
You just
And we know Andor's going to bring up to that point.
What would have worked better? Darth Vader said several. Several means two or more.
Yeah, it means a lot.
Cassian Andor and Rogue One could have been the story of the third piece of the puzzle, the third piece of the Death Star plans, and then it would have fit.
It would have, yeah.
Then I might be saying some nicer things about Rogue One. Because, all right, Bria Theron, Kyle Katarn, what about the story of the third person? There was a story to be told there if people were paying attention. And then you get people like me on your side. But there's this shark, and there's this ramp, and there's some water skis and a leather jacket. Let's go.
Yeah, jump in. I think it comes down to some of the guys creating these shows. They're not, or they haven't been as invested in Star Wars their whole life.
No, they haven't.
So they don't.
You're fired.
They don't have all this other material. They don't know about the other. Or they do know about the other material, but they don't care. They obviously don't need it or care about it because they're doing their own story and
they read the stuff they know.
How they want it again.
Well, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. It's the fact that you've got new people doing it. They're going to put their brand on it, and the worst thing that any franchise can do is get people on board that are there for a paycheck. It's one of the reasons why, and I've mentioned this group before, but the Star Trek Continues folks was done by people that absolutely love the show. They poured their heart and soul into recreating the sets, recreating the lighting, recreating everything about it, and they did a truly phenomenal job. But
you're referring to Star Trek Continues?
Yeah.
You
know, and that's a show that you can clearly go, the people that are working on this show love this show.
Yeah.
And then you look at episode 1, 2, and 3 and you go, yeah, they're there for a paycheck.
Yep.
You know,
it's true. I mean, you look at the new Dune movie.
Yeah,
that was definitely a love child.
Well,
I didn't even go far to say Blade Runner 2049. That was a love project as well. That felt like we went from the first movie to the second movie, and there was only a couple of months in between in production time. It looked right. It felt.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it did. Blade Runner. Yeah, it was.
But again, you have
when he does something, he does it right.
It was awesome in the theater. I just know that.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, I'm sorry if you've done a bad job. I mean, honestly, if you screw up the small details, you forget that cotter pin that goes on the top rotor of the helicopter, the little tiny details. There's going to be mistakes in the big details.
You forget the cotter pin in the Jesus nut. You're going to know about it.
The Jesus nut. Yes.
So what would Denis do with Star Wars? That would be interesting. I don't know how big a fan he is.
Start over.
Huh?
I would go for a total reboot, blow everything up, and start over from the beginning. It might look a little more like Dune, but I don't care. I don't care.
Again, though, you go back to God, did I say this in the last show or not? I was talking about you got this planet killing space station that travels around, and in the later ones, the New Republic, the First Order, whatever they call themselves. They would draw the energy for this gun.
You told us about it.
This, I did, from the sun. Okay, so I won't rehash that, but it's
but
you get my point. If I destroyed your sun, I don't have to waste my time destroying your planet. I've already done that.
Alistair Reynolds in his one of his series of novels. That's what these advanced technology does. It destroys suns or alters. It actually, one of them, it was neat because it made the sun shoot out a beam of plasma to destroy a planet. So it's making the sun the planet killer, the star.
Interesting.
Well, even at that rate, I think if you were there would be cheaper ways to destroy a planet. Hey, I've got this device. I can drop this device into your atmosphere. It will burn your atmosphere off.
Right.
Take about 2 hours. Everything on the planet's dead.
I mean, Star Wars is a little bit fanciful. You're going to explode an entire planet.
No more fanciful than the Third Reich, and it's Paris gun, it's Gustav gun, and it's
right.
more.
It's still.
It's the same thing. They're parodying.
It's playing with physics. I mean, it's having its way with physics. Physics is tied up and being violated in kinky ways with the Death
That's
Star.
how you can have. That's how you can have a ship come out of hyperspace, clip the freaking mountain, and keep flying. And I'm just going no.
No. Yeah. No, I don't like when spaceships can hit rocks and just shrug it off. They did. That's a J.J. Abrams thing.
Yeah, yes. It's there, and hopefully J.J. will stay
sloppy
away
from sloppy.
Well, again, I think it goes back to, did the people that wrote this don't really love the show. Now I'm gonna contradict myself. I'm going to contradict myself, and then I'm going to.
Hidalgo on their payrolls, and that guy was a game master. I used to talk to him back in the 90s. He knew his stuff the way I do, if not more so. They have him on staff.
Yeah,
do they talk to him? Do they talk to him? He's an old West End Games guy. That guy knows his RPG stuff. He knows his Star Wars lore backwards and forwards.
Yeah,
but is there not the possibility that at some point they went, Pablo, look, we really appreciate your background, but we hired you for an actor. You're going to do what we tell you to do. Period.
Yeah. You can only do so much. You can bring a donkey to water, but you can't have him talk to Pablo Hidalgo.
You can put a goat in a tuxedo. It's still a goat. I mean, it's still a goat.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It again, to me,
you're talking about the animal, not the greatest of all things.
Right, yeah.
Or the Gran Turismo Omologato. Anyway.
Right. Sure.
So, can we talk about blue milk?
Yeah. Or blue algae milk?
Blue milk.
That's just the thing.
Bring out Star Wars cereal that when you put the cereal in the bowl, it turns the milk blue. For crying out loud, you can use footage. You want to really be cheap? You can use footage from Andor, episode 4, as in the commercial. You can see him looking, holding the magical thing.
That was in episode 5, Frank.
Was that 5?
Yeah, when his mother was berating.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It's on.
I don't know. I'm
See, it was funny because
the scenes I don't like. That was even a great scene. He's just
you guys had talked about some of the stuff that was in it, and I hadn't seen it yet. And I completely, as I'm watching the episode, I went, Jewish mother. Got it. No, I'm with it.
Yeah.
It's like,
actually, it's like
me of? Could be Italian too. Could be because there's some. She's wanting him to eat, so there could be the Italian.
She's pushing food toward him. Here, eat.
But she's
He's like, I don't want to eat this crap.
He's made with love.
I don't know if I
stuck for him. That's where he's got to go back to. Is that he left that.
Right.
He left that. He got out into the wider galaxy and was.
And now he's right back.
And now he's right back in that shit again. He's like, oh fuck. And you feel bad for him.
I think I did bring it up in the last episode.
Well, I think it's good that he feels bad about it because he really is the cause of it.
Universe.
What was that, Frank?
These are the lower decks of the Star Wars universe. Yes. There's no lightsabers. There's no force.
Right.
There's no magic. This is the gritty underbelly.
And it's more relatable.
A lot of commentators are shocked by this, but I think I said this in the last episode. This is the day-to-day operations of the Star Wars role-playing game.
Right.
Jedi are rare.
Yes.
So the rest of us are driving around in freighters trying to make money while the Empire keeps taking money out of our pocket. Oh, you didn't get a permit for this sector. You didn't get a permit for this planet. And they kill us by 1,000 cuts. But
I didn't get the permit for that sector because the guy wants too much kickback on I got to give him a certain percentage of my freaking profit off the damn load. No, I'm not doing that.
Exactly. So, but these are the daily grind in the role playing game. Maybe if these people that play the role playing game, they wouldn't be so surprised by Andor. Andor almost makes sense on some level.
Yeah, on some level. And I wouldn't be surprised by the end of it if whatever Cyril Karns' character arc is, if he decides he's on the wrong team.
Well, I
he
think
picks up with
his issue that he's got to deal with
rebellion.
right now is that he disobeyed an order, and a lot of
But it
people
was,
lost
but you can also
it.
see it as an illegal order.
Okay,
Or a crime was committed, and then your boss will tell you to cover the crime up, and you're
right.
like, well,
Let's put a pin in it. Let's put a pin in that for just a second. Okay, move the bodies, come up with an excuse, let it go. Okay, great, terrific. Let's say that he does that.
I'm sorry.
But he didn't do that. He started an actual investigation. He went into the whole
Right.
thing. He did that. People died.
Well, in the story, it was the inciting incident.
People got pissed off because people died.
Yeah.
And ultimately, him and everybody else that was in leadership position got fired because he disobeyed an order. Now, the order was good. The order was bad. If he'd have done what he was told, none of that, there wouldn't be any of this shit rolling down on him. He wouldn't be sitting at his mom's house eating freaking, McWheaties or something and fucking looking at blue milk. It's
C-3PO.
C-3PO.
It was a cereal back in the 80s. C-3PO.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's what he was eating. Cocoa Puffs or something. It's like, this is
I don't know.
I'm just turned to a bit of cereal.
Okay, so I said that. Briar pistol, I covered that. You destroyed my life. Okay. You destroyed my life, Cassian Andor. You destroyed my life, Luke Skywalker. Mara Jade. Gee, wonder where they got that line from.
Well,
And
they
my
repeat
bullet
lines.
was complete.
They repeat lines in Star Wars, man. Haven't you paid attention? They repeat lines. I got a bad feeling about this, and that's the other thing that really pisses me off, because they rehash these lines, and the wrong people get credited with them. Okay, you go, it's a trap, and everybody goes, oh, it's that Mon Calamari dude. No, it was Princess Leia trying to warn Luke on the fucking Sky City. She said it first.
You're correct.
Any of the freaking credit. None of the credit. Fuck them guys.
She doesn't get any credit.
I know, she still doesn't get any credit.
He's like, I know it's a trap. It's my
trap. No shit.
It's my trap.
He knew it on Dagobah, but he had to go anyway. Even Paul Yoda. Nothing but trouble.
Which circles us back to the whole reason that Anakin became a fucking Sith was because the Jedi Council and his wife fucked him over every chance they could.
Every chance.
Like, oh God. Anyway, but Andor got great hopes for that one, man. Let me tell you, I'm really hoping.
Morrow had just sold them a fucking hyperdrive.
I know, right?
If he would have took the credits, Darth Vader would all that
death, all that destruction, all that death, all that heartache, all that everything, man. If Watto had just fucking taken Federal Republic credits, none of it would have happened. Bastard.
Come on, Watto. You don't know what's at stake here. Take the credits.
Oh. Watto is a mess. I don't know why George Lucas created 3 characters that were exceedingly ethnically insensitive. Put it lightly.
Yeah.
The Nemoidians could have just been Duros, and they didn't have to have bad Chinese accents. Well, Jar Jar Binks could have been any other alien in the universe and not talk like
blackface.
Yes. Any other freaking alien race, Jar Jar Binks would have worked. And Watto.
He's so horny.
Ooh, he's so horny. He love you long time. You should put 30 seconds of that song in underneath this section of the movie.
Lord.
Or actually 29 seconds. The 30 seconds, YouTube gets spastic. But
I mean, I can just be a broken record and simply say Disney did, as so far, we haven't seen a woke bomb dropped. And if they don't drop a woke bomb, this will be a nice prequel that dovetails nicely with Rogue One.
Yeah.
And the fans like it, and it's actually generated interest. And if you look online, everybody's talking about this freaking series, but how quickly they forget that The Mandalorian was a betrayal because Kathleen Kennedy fired Gina Carano.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gee, hey, we got a really great show here. Oh, that's great. Let me just put a bullet to its head, like Sean Young in Blade Runner 2049.
Well, I have a problem
And the
with that.
funny
As I
thing is,
mentioned it before.
nobody's looking at her tweets and going, "Oh yeah, what she's saying is what Disney believes." Nobody's reading that
Something
shit
is wrong
and
with
making that
Look,
connection.
there was a guy
Something's wrong.
there was a guy from Disney that said that Trump supporters' children should be dropped feet first into a fucking wood chipper. Okay. And
Gets a free pass.
the only thing that happened is they made his account private so that not everybody could read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I think that's much more fucked up than anything that Gina Carano, or how you pronounce her name, that she could have ever put out. I honestly got to think that. But the thing is that it goes back to that. You're not promoting what we want you to promote. Therefore, we are going to do this.
You can't tell the actual Nazis what they're actually doing.
You can't explain to the Nazis that they're being Nazis because they don't believe they are. And if anybody that questions that, anybody that doubts that, I invite you to go on social media and just look at some of the conversations that go on.
They do.
This is not a
good Punisher.
Anyway, they do believe it.
They absolutely punished her for having an opinion that they did not like, and that was like
because they probably felt like they were the targets, and they probably are.
The left,
name me one person that doesn't talk shit about their job, about their bosses. Name me one person that doesn't do that.
She was just pointing out. I forget what she was pointing out. Drawing a comparison between the United States, not necessarily the government, but the way people are reacting to things.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same kind of thing that happened in Germany.
Right, and the downside to it is by firing her from the show, they absolutely proved exactly what she said.
Exactly, that's what exactly. Yes.
Yes.
So they know who we are.
Yeah, it's like,
and they're trying to. No, we don't want people to know who we are. We all want to know who you are.
Do as I say, not as I do.
But it's.
Well, I think it's funny. They're like, all of Star Wars they're all. George Lucas is a liberal. Most of the writers were liberals for the novels, and I'm thinking, well, like I said before, they're choosing one socialism over another.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Well, the thing is, and it goes back to what you said before. The fascists don't realize they're fascists. They think that they're the good guys, and it's and the issue, and it's the problem that actually manifests itself in the empire is, the guy's obviously he wants control of everything. He's just taken over the republic. He's done this. He's done this and this, and now the boot, comes down the line, and now in 15 years you're now people that really and I'm not trying to defend what Palpatine did, but if it was truly a good thing, then at a certain level down, from there down, those people would not know any difference in their lives. Right. And we see 15 years on, they're taking people's property, eminent domain, however you want to refer to that. Mm-hmm. And people,
people are eating animals from the Imperial Zoo.
Right. Yeah. They're Venezuela. It's we went from the number one economy in Latin America to can you eat rabbits? Can you eat your pets?
Insects. I hear they're yummy.
But it's
there are people that want to be controlled.
George,
there are, and that's the downside. There are people that want to be controlled, but there's also people, and I want to believe, I need to believe that is the majority of people that don't. I mean, you look at this country when they were 13 independent, in more or less independent colonies, you had people leaving those colonies heading west because they just wanted to they wanted to go out. They wanted to find out what was out there. They wanted that freedom. They wanted to explore. They wanted to see things. They want to live life on their own terms.
The freedom
And
made the danger.
look,
Yep.
I mean, if you want to, here's the irony. Here's the irony for me. Okay, we're talking about that. Literally, this country was founded because they didn't want 2 cents on a freaking 100 pounds of tea. Okay, literally, that's
Yeah.
what they were. That's the whole country
Yeah.
went like, "Fuck you, England." No,
And we've
you know,
become
and
a monster than King George could have ever imagined.
dude, I'm telling you, I got my tag renewal notice in the mail. I owe as much in city and county taxes on my vehicle, which is a 2000. That was a 2007. I owe as much in taxes on that as I owe for the tag themselves.
Mm.
You know, I have another vehicle that's no, wait, so I'm sorry. What the hell is it?
I don't know.
I forgot what the trailer religion, but like I call it a hoopty. I've got a 97 Civic, and I'm still paying state taxes on that. I'm still paying county taxes on it, personal property taxes, and it's almost 25 years old.
Yeah.
To
like,
quote Biggs Darklighter, eventually you won't own anything. You will just be a tenant of the empire.
That's
That was a
but see
prophetic
here,
line
okay,
in the editing room
for the
floor.
sake of argument, that's where you're at. You know, like I own my home, okay? Even if I were to write a check right now and pay off my mortgage, okay,
You still
every
owe.
year I would have to pay property tax on my property. So at what point do
Yeah.
I actually own my property? Apparently never, because
No.
let me miss one payment and they will auction this shit off
Right.
that fast.
Well,
And it's, you know, but it's
Yeah.
but it's that type of thing that make you go, yeah, no wonder these people are going to go out, they're going to fucking steal money, you know, and blow up a dam. I don't blame them, you know, like, but I'm trying to fathom why they've got, you know, they're storing you know, the pay for them in a dam.
plot device.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. They need a
Plot device.
Why is it physical currency?
They got the rolls of gold.
That's another issue.
Yeah.
It's a classic Western story.
Oh yeah, they're gonna hijack the Wells Fargo
Yeah.
train coming in with the payroll for the mine, for the railroad, for the whatever. Yeah. No, it's fine. I mean, I to an extent I can accept the premise of the movie or the show. It just, you know, because I'm there to suspend disbelief for whatever reason.
Yeah, for anyway, yeah.
You know, so I'm okay with that. Okay, they're gonna rob the stagecoach.
Yeah, because anything else, what are the other options that make it an interesting story? I mean, if it was electronic currency, then, which is what I thought it would be to begin with, like they were gonna, but then how do you? Because I'm assuming they're taking the money to fund the rebellion.
Yes.
So
right. And they wouldn't be able to do that with electronic. And I would think at that point that everything would be electronic. You would go, okay, here, boom, and it would transfer your little devices.
Maybe they got a system where they have some kind of physical currency and they convert it to electronic currency that gets beamed out to the however they beam out to information to other, like it's a hub and they beam stuff out. Maybe that's how it works. I don't know.
Well, that's a lot like the
in universe how it would operate, but.
Well, again, maybe it's, you know, maybe it's one of the holes in their plot, because you would have to imagine that if they're the Empire and these are Imperial soldiers, this is their Imperial paycheck, they're going to do it electronically. It's going to be, you know, you're not going to send physical, you know, gold whatever, you know, gold pressed platinum, whatever the hell. You're not going to send that out and leave it sitting there somewhere for a while.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're you're looking at in that cage with all these rolls of gold looking stuff in there, like, is anybody watching? I might have to go in here and slip a few from my pockets.
Right. I mean, it's, you know, but it's.
Then how's the Rebel Alliance going to take all that and then?
Well, right, but see, and that's the thing. If they were, you know, I mean, if in for the sake of argument, if they were going to steal the payroll, they would do it electronically. You know, and then of course somebody a little farther up the food chain looks in their computer and goes, "Hey, there's something going on this planet over here." Why?
Right.
Well, because the entire payroll for the planet just disappeared from our account, reappeared in another one.
Right.
It's like,
Something. He's going to go
oh
with
yeah,
a big giant flash drive and stick it in the computer and suck all that money out and
right. You know, it's
then
like
give it to Luthien and then go, here you go, and then okay, and then they'll be able to launder
I don't
it.
know.
They have to launder. Obviously, they have to launder it back into some kind of system to
Right.
to
My
be able to
problem
use
is
it.
any plausible solution I could come up with is clearly a level of thinking the writers never imagined.
Right.
That's the problem.
Like
Because
if it was a role playing game.
it could be reserve currency. It could be currency for non-imperial purchases, like on the planet. There's all
Yeah.
these farmers and whatever. You got to pay them in gold
Yeah.
because they have no electronic means of accessing money.
Right.
So
It could be that. That could be a very simple
and it
solution.
could be simple as
Yeah,
that.
now see, that would be a plausible reason. But they already said it was the imperial payroll.
Right.
Yes.
So that's
now-
what you're paying your soldiers for, and it just
Yeah.
sounds like like good bed. Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, yeah, I would think they would have to. But
Wagon
then
coach.
you have
But-
again, looking at history, you go back toward the end of World War II, German soldiers would go into an area, they would take whatever they wanted to, and they would write a receipt out for the person and give it to them and say, you can cash this in at the end of the war. And the people that had their stuff stolen were given this receipt, knew the receipt wasn't good to wipe their ass with.
Right.
You know,
Because Germans was thinking they were going to win the war, and then
yeah, they were absolutely convinced they were going to win the war, but there were just too many. I don't know. There were too many things against them, and even at that, and I always look at one of my favorite shows, Man in the High Castle.
Mhm.
There's just you could come up with they came up with the atomic bomb first, and they nuked Washington D.C. But there's too many other things about the United States that would have to be radically and drastically different than what they were.
Of course, yeah.
For that to be
And,
but
and-
it didn't that alone didn't destroy the illusion of the world that they had built.
right.
So,
Yeah.
and again, it's
but-
the thing that I looked at was it's an alt reality.
Yes.
So I can't expect really things to have been the same.
True.
So, but and that's
when your nation has to resort to slave labor to manufacture things, you're on the tail end of collapsing.
yeah. Yeah, you're not. Well, it's if and how we get involved in these conversations, I don't understand. But if you go back to the movie Schindler's List, he had a bunch of people, and they were working for him. And somebody asked him one time, they were like, "Well, are you concerned about this or that?" Blah blah blah. And he goes, "Look," he goes, "we make munitions for the Germans, and if none of them work, I'll be happy." It's like, because he was literally rescuing Jews on their way to the concentration camps to go, no, I'm gonna buy their freedom. They're gonna work for me. But yeah, when you're at that rate, but then again, I mean, you look at the Japanese when Hirohito made a radio announcement to the country that the war was over, he never mentioned that they lost ever.
Right.
And that became a thing where a lot of Japanese really did not know they lost.
Yeah.
Same thing in the Gulf War. Saddam Hussein was not deposed, and since the government controlled the media,
they didn't.
He said the war was over, and as far as the average Iraqi knew, they didn't lose. So it's like, well, but so you got now it's the empire's.
So that explains the First Order. Hey, we didn't lose.
But I think, believe it or not, let's say that the empire is destroyed, but that's just the emperor. You still got the system in place that he built. Too.
So it's
and that was
the atmosphere.
Yeah. So you got that, and you got that mentality. If you want to bounce that against the mentality that a lot of people had from Man in the High Castle, that show took place in 65 ish.
Yeah, in the early 60s.
And so you're looking at like 20 years that the Germans had been controlling and had been in charge of the United States. So there were a lot of young people that really had no idea what was before.
Right.
But there were a lot of older people that knew and remembered.
Yeah.
And that actually came up with some of the people where one of the guys was like, look, he goes to the what ultimately the leader, the Oberfuhrer, and was like, look, man, if you'll give the word, we can change this. And he's like, that's treason. And as soon as, well, it doesn't end up that way, but yeah, there were a lot of people that were left over that were like, yeah, we're not doing this. We're not doing this to our own people. And so in retrospect, when you look at the end of the empire, you can see where the First Order would come in, because they're merely, it's a power vacuum. It was great that they killed the emperor,
right,
but that creates a power vacuum, and what goes in
kill all the governors that are running or the mobs
right. You didn't,
running all the other sectors out here.
Yeah, I mean, Moff Tarkin was.
I think they did it better in the Legends EU, didn't they?
In the what?
In the
there
Legends
were warlords that were still holding. The Empire had a fairly good stranglehold on the galaxy. And then there's this guy Thrawn who came back because he was on a expedition to the unknown regions. And when he got back, his emperor was gone. So essentially, he was the heir to the Empire. And so he started turning the New Republic on its ass and started taking back imperial territories. But unfortunately, there was this incompetent guy by the name of Darth Vader who had done some things that had come back to roost. And I'm going to be nice and not give any spoilers. But
okay, but even
also,
then,
Tarkin had a girlfriend who was in the Maw cluster, and she came out and she started causing problems. And there were other warlords in various sections that needed consolidation. So the Empire didn't implode with the death of Palpatine in the universe.
It didn't, but I think
they redid the ending of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, well, to me, the thing is that like I said, they created a power vacuum, and then the people that were already there just simply moved up.
Yes,
and if Vader had still been alive, Vader would have taken over. If it wasn't Vader, it's somebody else.
Right.
So there's that pecking order.
Some other ambitious young person or whoever would.
Right, and it's and it's it goes back to that whole power thing. But then you look at what that Tarkin said about the Death Star. The Death Star was not something they're going to send out to the outer rings of the galaxy,
right,
to control the local systems. That's their show of force, and fear is going to keep the other ones in line.
Yes.
I mean, he outright said that. Now, it goes back to what we said before, that if you're using fear to control people, you're not on the right side of fucking history.
No,
all right? You're not.
That makes you, by definition, a terrorist, a person who uses fear as a manipulative weapon.
And they're the ones who are afraid because they're afraid they're going to lose power.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
These other guys.
Yes.
Well, but it goes back. I mean, Darth Plagueis was so powerful that the only thing he was afraid of was losing his power.
Yeah.
That's a mental issue to me. That's
right.
He's
comes with the job.
Well, yeah. I mean, but
to be evil, you got to have.
And overstepped his bearings. He made it personal. He blew up Alderaan and created billions of martyrs.
Yes. He created billions of martyrs, but he also
backfired.
He also did. I mean, he was, comparatively, granted, it's a much larger scale, but Alderaan was their Boston Massacre.
Yes.
Hey, you came in and you killed a bunch of civilians for no other reason than you could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We got a problem, But yeah, I mean, and again, it's really tricky because you're watching this show, and it's very, very hard to separate the story from the politics, because the politics is the story, and that's
is a rebellion. Rebellion, by definition, is a political change.
It's political action.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is by definition, it is politics.
Yeah. So, but so it's. I mean, it's. Yeah. But it's. It'll be. I'm very much looking forward to some of it, and. I think it's one of those situations, especially when they're talking about the team that's going to go in and do this heist thing.
Right. Who's going to die?
Well, yeah, who's going to die? But I think all of them realize there's a very real possibility they're all going to die.
True.
I think that's.
I'm thinking. What's his name? Skeen. Is that his name? The guy who has a problem with Andor.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably. He looks like he's going to be the sacrificial character. That's
as long as they do
who's
something
like sacrifice his life for the team.
Right.
That's the way I see it.
Hopefully it won't be a trope where it comes down to, well, it's going to be Andor, or it's going to be this guy that dies, and this guy decides, it's going to be him, because
I hope they would avoid that. But
well, I don't know. And that becomes another question about this series: is, are they going to be able to avoid the tropes? Are they going to be able? I mean, the really annoying ones.
And all of them die except Andor.
Yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, that was kind of
now we
think about the Rogue One, because you knew. Well, I think they could have got away with them not dying, and if they're not in the other, then so what? I mean, the Rebel Alliance should be wide enough or dispersed enough that those people in Rogue One could have survived and could have been in other.
But see, that's
or whatnot.
That's the problem with when the rebellion was doing their slow walk away from, the Imperial, the First Order ships following them, which is something I just kind of went, that's really fucked up,
Oh man.
But we're not going to try to escape really fast. We're just going to take it nice and slow and escape them that way, and that. Me was like,
make any sense at all,
poor writing and poor military tactics to begin with. To be sure,
an issue with fuel has never been an issue in Star Wars at all. It's never been brought up. They don't even know if these things run on a fuel, and all of a sudden,
it's an issue.
They don't have enough fuel.
Well, again, it's
camping solo.
Yeah, it's bad writing. No doubt about that. But
no doubt about it.
There's. You've got all these people, and they're like, well, who's going to come? Is anybody going to come? Well, nobody's going to come. Well, why? I mean, Alderaan was a galvanizing thing for the rebellion. The rebellion wants this shit over with now, and they worked hard to it. And they accomplished that goal. Now they got the First Order to come in and fill the power vacuum. The rebellion. The rebellion is still the rebellion.
Yeah, but what is it? The Force Awakens is as many years away from the Return of the Jedi to them as it was to us. So all the Imperial remnants should have been taken care of. You would think years, 40 years.
Well, when they're talking about
the expanded universe, the Empire never went away. They simply became the Imperial remnants.
Right.
They secured a small section of the galaxy and then signed a peace treaty with the New Republic. And then, of course, there was a galactic invasion.
Right.
So they signed an alliance, which became the Galactic Alliance, and the Empire and the New Republic were fighting together against an intergalactic threat.
If they just scrapped those 3 sequel movies, and they would be fine with me. So none of them make any fucking sense. Just none of this.
Well, I don't know. I think there was. I want to say it was an episode of Enterprise when they time traveled, but there was some. I was watching some show, and the Nazis had basically hooked themselves up with the mob, and when the mob became aware they were working with the Nazis, they were like, no, It's like, but you're gangsters. He goes, yeah, but we're American gangsters. It's like, we don't like Nazis, but
the sequels. I just had a problem with that. Why is the New Republic this weak? that these
Yeah.
other guys could do all this other stuff to them. And then,
J.J.
Well,
Abrams is your answer.
I know, but
yeah,
you
you,
think, yeah,
yeah,
I
but
mean,
it
that's why they're trash. It's just,
The agenda was more important than the writing,
yeah,
and
well, obviously it
yeah.
was.
and it shows.
Well, I would have to say, and I've said this before, it's really expensive to build 2 Death Stars. It's really expensive to turn a planet into a freaking spaceship.
Yes, it is.
You know, I'm looking at the reality of it is there's a bean counter somewhere going, we're broke. You know, like I don't care what you want. Oh, you know, oh, you want blasters for the guys out on Dantooine? Yeah, not fucking happening, dude. We're broke. You know, but I don't know. It just
And what's the psychology behind that? You blow up these planets, and now you don't have planets to run or to control. I don't know what.
well, I
The
think
point is that the
I think
Death Star
Tarkin's
have
point.
never
Yeah.
been used. That was the
Well,
mistake, was using it.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I will disagree with you on that. It was only a mistake to use it because it backfired. The concept of it was we will destroy this planet because we can, and if there's another planet out there that's going to give us a hard time, they're going to remember. They're going to go, "This is what we're up against, guys." When that new moon pops into our solar system, we're screwed. You know, there's no debate. There's no.
When the passengers on board the aircraft on 9/11 knew that they were going to die,
Right.
Oh yeah.
they
Oh, yeah.
fought back. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
exactly what happened with the Galactic
Yeah.
Civil War.
Right.
Yeah.
When
No,
you know you're
I
going to die, the Death Star
You got nothing to lose.
backfired
Yeah,
because
if you're
they
gonna
used it. That's
it's
my
what was
point.
it? There was a movie I watched one time, and the premise of the movie was stupid. This kid wanted to go into space. A robot that worked at NASA was, knew that he wanted to go to space, so the robot created a situation where, even though it was a training thing, they were on the space shuttle. They actually had to launch the space shuttle, or the space shuttle would explode. And then once they got into orbit, the guy that was the commander of the thing told somebody, well, you're the pilot, you've got to land this. And she was like, well, what if I mess it up? And he goes, if you do nothing, we die. If you do the wrong thing, we die. If we're going to die, we might as well try anything, because, worst case scenario, we live. But if we do nothing, we're dead.
I think it's pretty.
And you're right. The guys on Flight 93,
I'll put on all
that's, and I'm pretty sure that, it's, I don't know, man, that's a touchy situation for me on a lot of different levels.
I know.
But
in Brooklyn at the time. I know,
Yeah.
but there's a real world example that shows you when you start killing people, the effect of terror. Fear, the fear of the unknown is a bigger monster if you keep it in the person's head. When it becomes real, when
then they can
when
deal
you
with
actually kill people. Now it's okay. Now things have just gotten real, and now we've got to fight back.
Yeah.
And Leia's
and
was right.
And that's why I say that on the surface, the concept was we will destroy Alderaan, and that will keep people in line. And what happened was they destroyed Alderaan, and people that would not have joined the rebellion were lining up.
Yeah.
They were, because it's like, we don't want them to do that to us. We want this stopped. So again, it goes back to the same thing that they did with the Scots, the same thing that they did with the colonists. The people that were in charge created their own problems by their own actions.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
just leave shit alone, it'll be fine. Nobody will have an argument with
people
you.
Got to touch things.
Yeah, that's all people wanted to do. I mean, and I'm sure there's,
they'll be fine. Leave us alone.
And you look at Alderaan, you're going like, look, probably, and the stupid part about it was, if you really wanted to be honest, I would say the majority of the planet of Alderaan didn't have a problem with the Empire.
If you wanted us all to wear masks, all you had to do was not say a damn thing.
Yep.
You didn't have to make it mandatory. It's like, hey, mask might be a good idea to keep yourself, healthy.
Well,
then we'd go, all right, maybe we'll wear one. or not, or
But
Well, I don't know.
But
And Pfizer running the public service messages.
right. And when you say
But
you have to wear this, you
I
have to wear
wonder.
this in our store, and they were like, now we feel rebellious. Don't tell me.
well, I think the
I'll make that
downside to it
decision for
was,
myself.
I think the downside to it is that the whole thing was a house of cards, and it fell apart on them.
Mhm.
Yep.
You know, they discovered ultimately, and the CDC actually admitted that wearing masks did absolutely nothing to prevent the spread
Yeah, and
at all.
everybody knew that.
But
Kinda
they
crazy.
still require people to wear them. Now, right, and everybody knew that. But you had one group of people going, "I'm not wearing a damn mask
If
because
you're
it's not doing
sick,
any
wear
good."
it. That
And
way
you
it
had,
keeps it from getting out. But if you're not sick,
please, yeah, absolutely.
it's not gonna.
I know we're horribly off topic, but I remember when the pandemic was first announced, Harrisburg looked like I Am Legend. There was no one around. Everybody
Right.
Yeah,
hid. You didn't have to
Yeah.
tell them to do that.
well, but I think
Americans
the other side,
understand germ theory.
I think the other side to that is you had Fauci, who literally like a week ago said that he never suggested shutting anything down,
That's all he was
and then
doing.
they show a video of him like literally
Leftists
side by
are not
side of from like 2 years ago of him saying,
We got
"Yeah, we got to shut everything down," and it's like,
Sounds
and
like he's
that's
interested in continuity.
well,
not really. He doesn't know what
it's
he's doing.
I think the problem is it, and
He thinks
we
so.
are way off topic here. We really are way off topic.
That's all right. Paul can chop
But-
it.
But but yeah, I mean, it's like the people in charge of the government currently aren't aware that there's this thing called the internet, and that people can find things on the internet because once it's on the internet, it never goes away.
Baby boomers still don't know how technology works.
It's well, I get accused. I had a guy the other day that got pissed off, and he was like, "I can't wait till all the boomers are dead." Look, I was born in 1963. Somehow, I don't fucking know, but somehow that makes me a boomer.
No, it
Because
doesn't.
I
You're a
was
very
born-
young boomer.
You know,
Oh.
I'm on the cusp. Let's use a
You're Gen
freaking,
X.
I'm on the cusp
You
of
have more qualities than Gen X.
boomer and whatever. I don't know what the hell came after the boomers. Fuck, I don't know.
Generation
But-
X.
X.
Yeah, Generation X. So I'm an ex boomer.
Hi.
I don't know.
An
I'm an
ex-boomer?
ex boomer. Crap. I don't know. But it's, it's I don't like the label of boomer. I don't look at it as an insult. I just think it's a misapplication because I really don't consider myself to be somebody that was a result of the baby boom after World War II.
Right.
I was
you were.
born in 63, for the love of Christ. Okay, 5 years maybe. Okay, boomers. But it astounds me, and it was actually explained to me, and I wish Rob was here because he would probably smile and grin about this. But back in the 80s, I was like, dude, what is with all of these executives and business people getting busted for cocaine? What the hell is going on? He goes, the 40-year-olds today were the 20-year-olds in the 60s. And I went, oh yeah, there you go. And it was a drug culture. The whole thing was a drug culture.
Right.
And that's why there's a drug for everything now.
And the
it's
very
like,
people who were against authority in the 60s are all about authority now.
are all about, yeah.
They're all in the government.
Beware. You don't
Yeah.
become the monster that you rebelled against.
Yep.
You either you die a hero, or you live long enough to become what you hate. And
Yeah, that's what it's.
it's the sad reality is that the situation I think that we're in is because and look, I think that there's a whole lot of stuff that can be fixed relatively easy in this country, but when I'm on social media and I'm looking at some of the stuff that's going on with the left, you have two distinctly different groups of people. You have what they call the classic liberal, which are the Democrats that still hold a lot of the values that the Democratic Party had in like the 60s.
Yes.
And then you have people that are like, they want to push it really hard, really to the left. Now, if it's possible, and I don't know how, there was somebody that actually mentioned AOC and referred to her as a moderate. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, are you kidding me? No, and this is, I mean, and it's funny because it's,
So what
the weird thing
scale?
is the same people that were trying to convince me that Obama was not a socialist are the same ones saying that. And the reason they're saying he's not a socialist is because they consider him to be a centrist. And I'm like, there's no fucking way, but but it is scary because the people coming up behind, they are, they're truly convinced that, well, once we wipe away capitalism, once we wipe away the old order,
They don't,
things are going to be better in this
they
country. And it's
don't
like,
understand how when a government begins to take over production, that eliminates a lot of
sure.
freedom. It
Well,
eliminates economic freedom.
the,
They don't see
the,
that
the
connection. They think, oh, the government can run things, and then for some reason they think it run it better or fairer, more
here's
fair.
their interpretation of it. Here's their interpretation of what I've been able to
But
gather.
these are the people in the empire
Okay.
in the Andor
Right.
cities.
Right.
Yes.
In socialism, it's everybody owns the businesses, everybody owns the economy, not the government.
Right. That's the way you want it.
Now, here's what happens. And it was something that I had read one time, and the more I thought about it, the more I dwelled on it, the more I went, holy crap, that's right. Socialism is a transitory form of government. As a country goes from free market, I will not use the word capitalism, as it goes from free market to communism. Because now we go from free market, where businesses are owned by individuals, and now those businesses are going to be owned by the workers, and the workers are going to do this. And if you've ever read the book Big Pilot, you will know this. They would work till about 10 o'clock in the morning and spend the rest of the day getting drunk, because according to the plan, they only needed to work 10 o'clock in the morning because they only had to produce X number of these things, and they could do that in a couple hours. So the whole system they already knew was not going to work. So what happens is, as all too often happens, is that the government is going to come in, and the government is going to be forced to take over. Now you have communism.
Mm-hmm. The hubris being that people think that the workers know how to run a business. We don't.
Right. Well, too many people forget or don't know that, hey, the guy that owns the business has done all the research. He pays all the taxes. He takes all the responsibility. He takes, you got some guy in, you got some guy at Callahan Auto Parts making brake pads. Okay. That line worker comes in, he's responsible for making X number of brake pads an hour. And as long as he does that, he gets paid, he's happy, he goes home.
Right.
He's got no business trying to run that business, because and I'm not saying this is every single person that works in a factory or every single person that works for, say, like something like FedEx or something like that, but those people up there are getting paid that money because they're the one that takes all the risk. They're the ones that take all the responsibility. Exactly. They're the ones that deal with everything. So why should that be given to everyone? And you look at the guy that decided, well, he's the CEO of a company, he's going to pay all of his employees $70,000 a year. He's bankrupt and out of business.
Yeah.
It's a balance.
Well, maybe
some weird way Metropolis was right. There are also decisions made by upper management that looks on the assembly line as complete madness.
Sure.
So there's an optics problem with upper management.
Yeah.
And
sometimes
there needs to be a balance. I mean, for example, Elon Musk has every manager in Tesla come down to the assembly line and turn wrenches. Yeah. And maybe it doesn't necessarily help those managers in managing, although I do think to some degree it does. Yeah. But the optics are tremendous to the line workers. I'm like, you've actually turned a wrench. Now you can be my boss.
Let me give you one of my favorite examples.
Go for it.
Of this. And when Paul and I were in the service together, our squadron commander, his call sign was Slammer. If he was not on the flying schedule, he would put on his BDUs, he would go out to the flight line, and he would walk up to somebody and he'd go, "What can I do?" Okay, 3 jets down, they're getting ready to launch. You need to go pull chocks. When the squadron commander is out there pulling chalks, yeah,
You love that, man.
when he's out there pulling chalks, there's nobody in the squadron that can go, that job is beneath.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's the easiest job.
But you also have the reality is that you do respect that man and you will do anything. And I have to say honestly,
you'll take a bullet for that guy.
He is one of the people that I worked with while I was in the Air Force, that if my phone rang and he said, I need you to do this, if it was with my dying breath, I would make sure that it got done.
Yeah.
And those people are rare.
And
because
most
there's too
of that
many
is
people.
Optics, but it's also integrity as well.
Right.
But that's my point. And get in there, get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
I would tell FedEx stories, but that'll probably get me fired. So But there are good managers and there are bad managers, and I'll tell you this: the good managers have dirty hands.
The thing that we had
want to be called prefect on FedEx.
Right, and it wouldn't be called prefect. Well, we had a maintenance officer.
This is
the maintenance officer that we had before Major Gaston, and that guy came to us from bomb dump. And the reason they sent him to us from bomb dump was every time they went down to look at to find him, he was out building bombs. And his rationale was, I've got to know what they do. I got to know how they do their job, so I know whether they're doing it right or not. You know, Major Gaston was another one that I truly respected her. And, you know, sure, there was, you know, we had our pet names for people, but, you know, she was a real good, solid person, and she was a straight shooter. But it's not just, you know, you said there are good supervisors and there are bad supervisors. That's the military too, because the military is nothing but the difference is that the people that are in the military stepped up and said, you know what, I'm going to dedicate my life to doing this. Okay. Various reasons, but you had good supervisors, you had bad supervisors, you had really awesome technicians, and you had really shitty technicians. You had that spectrum in there because people are people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I think by and large,
in every group.
but I think
we're doing a good job in
Andor
of even showing that, especially with the Imperial Security Bureau, where
it's as bureaucratic as that is.
But they're like, we need solid proof.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're not telling him to go get that proof. They're just telling him to ignore it. It's like, well, all right.
Well, that's
and that kind of reminds me of how the FBI and the CIA were not working together with Intel, or they've been. Some things may not have played out the way they played out.
Well, I'm still I'm highly suspicious that, you know, there's literally 2 people in the January 6th thing that nobody has bothered to talk to. One of them being Mike Pence, the other one being
where's he been, huh?
The other one being, oh crap, I just drew a blank on his name, but he was the guy that was literally going around telling people that they were gonna breach the Capitol.
The agitator.
Yeah,
he was putting several cell phone videos on Twitter.
Oh yeah, tons of videos on it, and like the FBI didn't even look at it. They're not even he's persona non grata to them. It's like he doesn't exist.
Is he a plant?
And it's like, is he a plant? Well, here's the again, go back to your conspiracies, but
Pelosi's powerful.
You know, when congressmen asked the FBI directly, how many people did you have on the ground on January 6th committing violence? And the guy goes, I can't tell you. You know, this is shades of Mark Furman on the stand during the O.J. Simpson trial, where they said, have you ever planted evidence in a murder case? And he goes, I take the 5th. And they go, did you plant evidence in this case? And he goes, I'll take the 5th. I went, they're never going to get a conviction. They're done. They might as well all go home right now. There's never going to be a conviction.
Yeah.
And then there was the glove fiasco, and it was like, and it doesn't matter if he's guilty or whether he's not guilty. Jury said,
you didn't prove it.
Yeah, and that I think a lot of people.
Reasonable doubt. Can I go back to Andor for a second?
Yes, please do.
Might as well. That's what the show's about.
I forgot. Maybe you can edit this in somewhere. But the relationship between Major Partagaz and Deidre
Yeah.
may be our only clue of wokeism, because here we have a superior man mansplaining to her, and she's actually doing the work, and she's actually found something. She's the competent female versus the old incompetent male. So I think if there's going to be wokeism, we're going to see it at that angle, at the ISB.
Right, and it's very subtle too, because that stuff does actually happen in
Well, I think
the world, in businesses and whatnot, in militaries, and before there was a thing called wokeness. So it wasn't.
Well, the thing with them is they were looking for a pattern, and they're like, well, if you're going to steal stuff, you're not going to steal it all from one place. You're going to steal it from different places. You're going to steal different things from different places,
right?
And that's what they were putting together.
But the funny thing is, Cassian Andor was just stealing something to sell something. He wasn't even in part of anything at all. He just see if I can get this.
Right,
it's I guess that's something to do with navigation or with tracking things.
Right.
Path, box, whatever the fuck that's supposed to do.
Right, but how do you? But again, I mean, you're
obviously it's a high value thing that smugglers would want to have. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So he's like,
I'm stealing this because I can make some money off of it by selling it.
And he tells him,
but I have no real clue what it is I've stolen.
Right.
And I think history is full of people that have turned up dead for that because they didn't know what they stole.
Right. And he played with them in episode 5. He told him, "Look, I'm in this for the money." That was his Han Solo moment. He's like, I don't really have a cause I'm fighting against. I'm just offering some money because I have a skill that the guy I can't talk about wants to use for this.
Yeah.
Right, but there's a character arc. He's in it for the money. Tell you right out he's the Han Solo.
They got to make him this. So
I'm here for the money.
What's in the Rogue One?
I'm here for the money, and until Han Solo showed up in the trench and took out the 2 TIE fighters,
right?
There's his redemption arc.
Chewbacca was chewing his ass out, probably.
Oh, you know it, man. Chewbacca's like,
we gotta go back.
And he goes, yeah, all right, fuck it,
all right, damn it. That's what I want. I want to see that. Well, I want to see that segment.
My dogs are going nuts because they heard me doing Chewie.
One could argue that Chewbacca's life debt also included Han Solo's soul.
It could, he's like, Chewbacca had to say something to him.
Oh, I know he did.
We can't just leave.
Well, it's really interesting because you look at Chewie, and Chewie's like a war veteran, and war veterans. Veterans in and of themselves are a peculiar group, but you start throwing war veterans into something, and they become an extremely unique group of people. And just because there was the chemistry between them, that those two had been through a lot together, and it's almost at the point where they know what the other person is going to do in a given situation.
Right. Yeah.
So it's intuitive that when they pack their shit up, and Chewie's like, dude, you see what and you kind of can't blame Han Solo because he's wanting to clear that debt with Jabba.
You're right,
but it's like, damn it, but it does, as Frank mentioned in one of the other episodes, it's a redemption arc of a character. He is a scoundrel. He is a tyrant. Not a tyrant. He's a pirate. He's a scoundrel. He's a rogue. He's not a good person. And because he understood what was going on, and it's really cool. But I'm interested to see how the defrocked, irritated bowel syndrome, Imperial, police officer is going to do living in his mom's. You can just tell he loves that shit.
He is not happy.
He is a character designed to keep the audience interested.
Yes.
He's a compelling character. We don't know which way he's going to go.
Right.
So
Well,
And
here's
the more they make him likable, the more you want him to switch sides and go to the rebellion.
right.
yeah, but see, they've done that in other shows too, where you think a guy's going to make a switch and he ultimately doesn't.
Right.
But I think the thing is, and this would be me, it would depend on a little bit more about his character than what we know. We know that he was prone to do things he shouldn't have with his uniform. You added this, you did this, you tailored
Right.
this, you changed the uniform. So we know that his character is he will bend the rules,
to sort of improve.
maybe not break them.
Right.
But if
Everybody else looks sloppy, he wants to look more.
he wants to look more polished, he wants to look more professional. It's almost like the mentality of when in the Air Force we changed from the pickle uniforms
Yes.
to the BDUs.
Right.
The pickle uniforms, the green uniform, just plain green that we used to
Right.
wear, those look really, really crappy if they're not ironed.
True.
You don't have them sharp creases. They look like shit.
They look like,
But then when we transitioned to the BDUs, they were like, hell no, you're not supposed to be ironing these things.
right, they're supposed to
There's
be
not supposed,
baggy and
there's not supposed to be any creases in them. There's not supposed,
right.
So, but you're used to seeing that in the old uniforms, and you want to see it in the new ones too.
And another point with that too, if you saw somebody in ironed BDUs or real sharp looking BDUs, we call those people ate up. They're
right.
So into
right. They were
image of the whatnot.
But I think with his character is that there was a crime committed. He was investigating it, and that cost him his job.
Right.
So he is either going to make it his life's mission to find this person and bring them to justice.
Yes, I think that's what.
Or he is going to go, you know what? I was doing the right thing, and I got fired for it. Fuck these guys.
True.
And go that route. Too. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see it. But I
was looking at the hologram of Andor, so he's thinking about how can he
get
this guy.
That means he knows exactly who it is, who he's got to go find, and it's a large galaxy.
Mm-hmm. See, it would be interesting if this story was flipped, where he's the protagonist and Andor's the antagonist.
Yeah,
just because there's lots of stories.
Yeah, like I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that they presented the good guy as the bad guy, or vice versa. I remember, as cheesy as it was an old Japanese martial arts film that I saw one time, and this guy was hiring people, and they were like, "Well, what's the gig?" And he goes, "We have to go rescue my daughter. These people kidnapped my daughter. Blah 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 blah." And he gives them this whole sob story, and they go in and they kill all these guys. They get the girl, and as it's done, it's over. They're gone. They take the girl, they hand her over to the guy, and that's not his daughter at all. She owed him money. So these guys thought they were the good guys the whole movie, and they weren't.
They were actually doing the kidnapping, right?
It's like they were the ones that actually did the kidnapping. So it's like, it's kind of shades of Michael Douglas in Falling Down. It's like go through all that and then wait a minute,
I'm the bad guy.
Wait, I'm the bad guy. So it'll be interesting to see how they. Why did my voice just crack? But it will be interesting to see what they do with that character, because it's he can go either way, and I think with Andor himself, I think he's going to walk the path of the Han Solo.
Right, because that's
he's going to go. I'm in it for the money, but at a point he's going to go, no, I'm in this because, we're in it.
Yeah, it's got tie into Rogue One, so you're seeing his character arc a little bit.
Well, here's my stupid question, and I realize it's the same actor, and I apologize because I didn't bother to learn a whole bunch of people's names because it was all stuff that but it's not the same. It's not the same character. It's just the same actor.
No, it's the same character.
Oh, it's the same character. Okay.
Yeah.
See, there you go. See, now that sucks. Now I know it's well, first of all, spoiler, now there you go. I now know the guy's going to live through this fucking mission, and I know that he's going to die later on. Fuck, thanks a lot.
That's all, boys and girls.
It should be. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think we've said everything we can say.
I'll probably split this thing in half or something like that.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed all of that because I couldn't hear.
No, I just said we'd gone over 2 hours, so I probably split the thing into part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there's some of this stuff I think you can really take out, but it's up to you. But just there's a lot of the politics part in there that's
I like a lot of them. Well, it does mix.
It's hard to discuss it without getting into the politics. It
I
really is.
I agree.
There's so many parallels because they have to draw upon parallels.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just can't make up this.
Right? Yeah, you
Help to
can't.
have historical events and to base your story.
Star Wars was born out of the American the love of the American Revolution, the rebellion against England, the great oppressor. Now, mind you, George Lucas patterned the empire more after Rome and Nazi Germany, but we all fell in our hearts the war against England. And I think that's really why Star Wars clicked in 1977. We were just coming off of the bicentennial.
Right. And after had a spike.
And it was a good story.
Coming out of Vietnam too.
Yes. The truth sells. Ultimately, it does. The truth is the truth. The truth can't be denied.
Right.
But
it can, just not for very long.
But not forever. A lie cannot live forever.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yep.
The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Just let it go. It'll defend itself.
Yes, I agree.
So.
All right.
Anyway. I think that's the show for today. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, go ahead and give us a thumbs down. We're adults. We can deal with that. If you really want to feel frisky, go ahead and subscribe. And if you hit that bell thing somewhere in there, it'll alert you when we put out
every 6 months. It'll alert you that there's been a new video.
Until one of us dies, and then it's like every 3 months after that. But as
long as there's something to talk about.
Yeah. And go ahead and leave us a comment. Tell us how drunk you got while you're watching the show. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Bye-bye.
Aluminum.